It's a little ironic that I'm here on a podcast giving you relationship advice because I'm the guy typically who's going to roll my eyes or discount or dismiss what seems to be an endless stream of advice on the internet that people just scroll through day in and day out. These 30-second quick reels, these life hacks, these oversimplified psychological, pop psychology ideas are quite frustrating for me as a clinician because I'm sitting with clients all the time and they come in with these ideas, and sometimes they're good ideas. A lot of times they're sort of half-truths, misunderstood kind of ideas, and that kind of wisdom is really frustrating to deal with because it's really almost like a dopamine hit, and then I have to help you kind of unwind that. It might be a clever line that you throw at your spouse or a clever line that you use in public or whatever it is, but these are just clever lines sometimes. They're not really designed in some sense to create transformation. And it's not a way to just change your life. Insight alone cannot change your life. But yet, here I am. I'm on this podcast, I'm on this YouTube channel, I'm on whatever you're viewing or listening to me on, and this is how I get the things out there now. This is how we communicate in this world, through quick takes, short clips, bite-sized thoughts. And if I want to reach you, this is where I have to be. I got to meet you where you're at. If you're not in my office, I got to find you somewhere to help you, because that's my aim, is to help you. But the problem is, I have found anyways, and this is a broad stroke, it's not everybody, but a lot of people don't really want to change. They really just want to consume the information. They want the advice that feels good but doesn't demand anything, doesn't demand anything of them to grow. So I want to be so clear. Today is not about a life hack. It's not about a fun little quick thing that's going to suddenly change your life. And, if you're going to click off now, go for it. I'm not here to make your life easier necessarily or make it easier overnight. What I'm going to share today requires something of you. It requires something that's in short supply these days. It requires responsibility. And that kind of responsibility helps you grow up, especially in a world, if you look around, of people that are almost perpetual adolescents. And I'm not trying to call out or be disrespectful. Some of us just don't know. What we're going to talk about today helps us grow up if we take the responsibility in our own hearts and minds to deal with these issues. Now, I'm not going to guarantee any kind of healed wounds, but it could. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but these are the kind of things that will help build the kind of security within your heart and soul and mind where love can grow, where most of us are so desperate to find connection. Now, again, no guarantees, but if you really want relationships to work, you're going to have to grow up. And I'm going to provide for you today some advice, not popular advice, but it's the kind that actually saves marriages. It can help families. It might even impact your soul in some deep way. All right, well, thanks for joining me today for another episode of the Voyagecast. I am Ed, as always, to bring you help beyond the office for the days when you need just a little bit more than a session. And before we get into this, I want to also remind you that if you're in Colorado and you're needing help with counseling services, neurofeedback, or coming soon, hopefully, psychiatric care, hit us up, voyagescounseling.com. That's VOYAGES counseling.com, and reach out. Let us know if you need help, okay? We are providing free help, but we're also here to make a living as well, and we're available, and we take all major insurances. So hit us up, voyagescounseling.com, and hopefully we can get you connected with a clinician in a reasonable amount of time. Sometimes it does take a little bit with insurance verifications. All right, that aside, let's jump into today's topic. And I want to start it out this way. The culture that we live in is kind of like a giant experiment of what not to do, okay? We live in this culture that treats relationships like an experiment. Do whatever makes you happy. Redefine your commitment. Bail out when things get hard. Now, these are things that people do regularly, and I understand everybody's got their reasons. I'm not demonizing anybody here, but these kinds of philosophies sound really liberating on paper in an idealized sense. But practically speaking, it's not progress. it's actually just detrimental. And the numbers really do speak to this story. And I'm going to give you some of these stats here to give you a little bit of broader context of what's really going on. As of 2024, only about 46% of women aged 20 to 44 are married, which is down 57% just 2 decades ago. Fertility rates have dropped to 1.6 children per woman. That's the lowest in U.S. history. This is astonishing information. I hope you can understand the gravity of this. People are marrying later, having fewer kids, and in many cases avoiding family entirely. So what's the result of all of this, of kind of the do what you want, live for yourself sort of materialistic mentality? Loneliness. We live in a loneliness epidemic. We have skyrocketing anxiety. We have a generation that is less secure now in love, probably than ever before. Now, I'm not excusing mistakes of the past. I'm just saying that what we're trying to do now isn't working. But why isn't it working? Well, because these experiments go against the grain of how human attachment actually works. You see, we're wired for consistency, for sacrifice, for reliability. Love grows when someone shows up again and again and again. It's predictable, especially when it's inconvenient. Like, there are many times in my personal life, I don't want to show up. I'm admittedly kind of a selfish person sometimes, but I do it anyways because that's the right thing to do. And the reward of that is a healthier, more secure family. And I'm not as lonely. Look, there's going to be all kinds of marriages that go against the grain, that have caveats and nuance, and I'm perfectly accepting of all these things. I work within a world of nuance as a therapist, but I want to get across this message that this modern alternative that keeps promising you something, it's not going to work. It doesn't work. Anecdotally and statistically, it doesn't work. Now let's name some of these, we'll call them modern experiments. One of them is hookup culture. Hookup culture we see everywhere. It's pretty normative these days. People have sex like they have paper coffee cups. They drink it, they throw it away when they're done. It promises fun. There's no string attached. I get that. But in reality, it's actually training your brain neurologically to be detached, not attached, which is what we're designed for. It conditions you to see people as interchangeable bodies instead of a soul to connect with. Psychologists are now documenting what therapists have been seeing, what I've been seeing for years. Frequent casual sex correlates with higher rates of anxiety, depression, and relational insecurity. It's kind of like using Velcro over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Eventually it doesn't stick. Hookup culture doesn't just destroy trust, it erodes it completely. Trust is one of the foundational elements for building a healthy attachment bond. Digital dating is another one of these experiments that I think relates to all of this stuff. Swipe culture gives us a whole new lexicon for things like ghosting, breadcrumbing, orbiting. Thinking about it, we've invented new words to describe new forms of relational cruelty. Do you understand that? Like, we have new words to describe our own way of justifying some kind of relational nonsense that's actually just playing out as cruelty. This isn't progress of freedom of rights or whatever. This is dysfunction with branding. These behaviors don't just end relationships. They destabilize our very capacity for secure love. Ghosting and breadcrumbing don't just kill these relationships. They literally can kill your ability to like rest or relax or be in love long term. Now, the next experiment, and there's going to be more than just what I have in this list today, guys, but the next one is one that I'm going to admit I am a hypocrite on and I am guilty of, and it's something I need to personally in my own life work on. And the name of it's hilarious, in my opinion. It's called phubbing. I think that's a funny word. Sitting across from someone you claim to love while scrolling your phone is phubbing, I guess. It seems like a small infraction, but research is actually showing that phubbing measurably reduces relationship satisfaction. I think you can imagine why, but I'm going to tell you anyways. Because it says you are not my priority. My phone is, or my computer is, or my TV is. Probably your phone. And this kind of betrayal, repeated over and over and over, corrodes the foundations of trust, which again are the foundations of a secure attachment bond. Now, phubbing is like a modern betrayal. It tells your partner the screen matters more than you. That's pretty insulting. And I am guilty of it. So, full disclosure, I'm just as bad as everybody else. Next one. And this one's interesting because it's kind of on the up and coming. It's sort of brand new in a lot of ways. Artificial intimacy. AI chatbots. I've talked about this in another podcast episode on our Voyages Top 3. So go check that out. I've talked a little bit more of that information there. But AI chatbots and virtual companions are exploding in popularity because they're safe, they're predictable, and they're always affirming. And who doesn't want to be consistently and always affirmed perfectly? But that is the problem. You can't grow up. You can't grow in a relationship when you're always affirmed. You don't grow by relating to a mirror that tells you what you want to hear. You grow by colliding with another flawed human being who forces you to stretch, to forgive, to sacrifice. AI intimacy may feel soothing. It may feel comforting in some kind of way, but honestly, it's never going to grow you up or sanctify you. It'll never get you to that next level of who you really, truly could be. AI intimacy gives you an illusion of connection, but it robs you of any opportunity to transform, like I said, into who you could be. And besides, the idea of like AI intimacy being a mirror, I don't know if you know this, but in I think it's Greek mythology, Narcissus, where we get the word narcissism from, falls in love with himself in the mirror. And that's kind of what we think about when we think of narcissism. It's like, you're the greatest. And everybody else pales in comparison to whatever your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and ideas are. And if you can't entertain something alternative to your thoughts, feelings, and opinions, then you are looping in like a self-referential narcissism, which is terrifying. And AI is going to help you do that, unfortunately. Now, the next one might seem a little weird. It's actually attachment theory, which is a great thing, and it's how I pretty much conceptualize everybody in my therapy office. But social media has kind of done a number on it. It's sort of gutted it of its meaning. You see, when I sit with couples, attachment theory is one of the most useful and important frameworks I have to see kind of the patterns and systems that people are functioning in and what they're really trying to vie for, which is ultimately a secure attachment bond. Now, it is a useful framework, but TikTok has kind of, and all these other social media sites have turned this into like an excuse. You know, like I'm an anxious attachment, or I have avoidant attachment issues, or whatever it is, and you need to deal with it. Now, these social media sites didn't necessarily ruin attachment theory, but they did turn it into an excuse instead of a path forward, a direction, a goal, something to aim at, a greater good. Let's pause just for a minute here, and I can already hear some of you pushing back a little bit. Like, Ed, but I can't trust people. Marriage is too risky. Kids are too much of a burden. I get it. I get they are. And those are all real fears. They're not irrational. They come probably from lived pain that you've been through. I mean, trust is risky. If you've been hurt, trust is risky. Commitment is demanding. It requires all of you. Family, just being in a family of any kind is going to stretch you further than you ever thought you could go. I know personally, I have been stretched to limits I didn't even know I had. And I've seen really terrible parts about myself come out. And that sucks. But it's important. It's kind of a weird paradox. Like, these kind of burdens are actually the things that grow you up. This is the path forward to development. Trust is risky. Commitment is hard. But what's the alternative? It isn't safer. It's emptiness. It's loneliness. And we're not meant for that. We go mad when we're alone. So you don't get the reward of love without risking vulnerability. You don't get a legacy to pass on without some kind of great sacrifice. You see, the deepest parts of life will always involve some kind of risk. And trying to avoid that risk leads not to safety, but to loneliness. Think about it this way. Is perpetual detachment really safer for you? Is keeping one foot out the door actually protecting you? Or is it making sure you never experience the depth of love your soul was designed for? The very thing our culture calls burdens, marriage, fidelity, children, sacrificial love, are the very things that mature us. They pull us out of self-centeredness. They force us to grow the hell up. They give us a bigger story than just ourselves. This so-called burden of family is actually the pathway to growth, to development, to something more, to meaning, to purpose. C.S. Lewis, if you know me at all, you know that I love this guy, and I've read as much as I could understand of it. And one of his quotes that I have from Mere Christianity is this: virtue, even attempted virtue, brings light. Indulgence brings fog. That's not, understand me, this is not a call to perfection. It's a call to start. Even the attempt at humility, patience, forgiveness, fidelity, it all clears the air. Indulgence does feel good. I get it. But it clouds your vision. It's like drinking too much. It's going to literally cloud your vision. So if shortcuts don't work for you, what does? It's certainly not another app, not another catchphrase, not another dopamine hit. What are the things that actually cause change? Well, I'm a big believer in traditional virtues. I think some of those things cause change. I think psychology and the research supports it. And so I want to share some of these things with you. And they are not flashy, but they are solid. They are something foundational you can actually build a life on. Humility is the first one we'll talk about briefly. I've sat with many couples over the years where the fight went in circles until one person says the hardest thing out loud. I might be wrong, and they mean it. They're not just placating or pacifying somebody. That broke the stalemate when they admitted it. Humility is the courage to let go of your ego. Humility is the death of your ego and the birth of reconciliation of life, of forward momentum in a relationship. But what does that require? The next virtue, patience. Healing takes time. Growth takes time. Love dies without patience because impatience just bails the moment things get hard and messy, which it inevitably will if you're in any kind of relationship with any human being. Patience says, I'm here for the long haul, even when it's slow. Patience is what keeps love alive long enough to grow. And in that process, we're going to need the next one, forgiveness. Every marriage, every relationship, every family will face wounds, and without forgiveness, bitterness calcifies and suffocates intimacy. Forgiveness, keep in mind, isn't about getting rid of these things. It's not about erasing the past. It's refusing to let the past own your future. And without forgiveness, every relationship will suffocate because there's always something to forgive. The last one that we'll talk about today is fidelity. Fidelity isn't just about sexual exclusivity, although that's a good thing. It's covenantal loyalty. It's the promise I'm not leaving, even when the shine wears off. It's the stability that creates safety for vulnerability when we're ready to share. Fidelity is not a contract. It's a covenant, which is actually a little bit more intense if you understand what covenant really means. And maybe in another episode, we'll get into that. And covenant is what makes intimacy possible, truly. So compare that to the artificial. Compare that to artificial intimacy. A chatbot won't betray you, sure. But it also won't shape you into somebody capable of real love. Somebody of substance. A chatbot might never betray you. But it will never make you human. So here's the choice, okay? Keep scrolling for easy answers. Or grow into the person that love requires. Grow up. Pick one virtue this week: humility, patience, forgiveness, fidelity. Other ones that I didn't talk about. And practice it in real life, not in theory, not in a journal. Although I'm not saying don't do that. Journaling might be very helpful for you to understand it and wrestle with it. But practice it in the middle of a conflict. Practice it when you're tempted. Practice it when there's silence. Maybe humility means admitting your defensiveness. Patience might mean staying when the healing feels slow. Forgiveness means laying down a grudge that you've been carrying for too long, even if maybe it's a justified grudge. Fidelity means showing up when you'd rather check out. It's not flashy, it won't be quick, but at least it's honest. If you want real love, you're going to have to grow up. I know I've said that, but it's the truth. But the choice at the end of the day is yours. Either you choose responsibility or you choose decay, but it is a choice. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, share it with a friend. Give us 5 stars. Don't forget to subscribe, too. We get a lot of watchers and viewers and listeners and all those things, but nobody's subscribing, so make sure you subscribe. That does help us because it gets the message out to other people in the wide internet world where content and help is kind of found now these days. So do us a favor. If you want to share this message, make sure you subscribe and give us 5 stars and, send it to somebody. Okay? All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.